Hi, I'm Selena, and 4 years ago, things were a lot different for me. I had no friends, I did horrible at school, and on top of it all, I used to sit at a table alone every day at lunchtime. No one bothered to even talk to me. Often, I had lunch in the school's bathrooms because all the tables were full and no one invited me to sit with them. That went on for 2 years. By the time I was 17, I was at home, alone, with no friends, and I weighed almost 200 pounds. My classmates hated me. My teachers hated me. I hated myself. My life was hell. I didn't want anyone to know about my problems, so I pretended everything was okay in front of my mom. But one day, I noticed that my secret notebook was gone. I looked for it everywhere until I found it with my mom. She had noticed it was under my pillow, and she read everything. Every single bad thing I was going through. My mom was in tears. After that, Mom decided to send me to therapy. The therapist thought the best option for me was to move to the city and be homeschooled. It was the fresh start I needed, and while it made me feel better about myself, my life was as boring as it could possibly be. No happy birthday, no prom, no boyfriend to share it with. Since I didn't have to do much other than studying, I finished school before I was 18. My teacher then suggested that I follow a science career. He thought I was very smart. That was the first step to changing my whole life. The fact that a teacher believed in me for the first time in years reminded me I was not stupid. I became more motivated, and I decided to change my life. I started going to the gym and losing weight. I studied for my LSAT and got the highest score possible. On my 18th birthday, I received a letter from the university. I was accepted. I finished college by my early 20s and got a job immediately as a structural engineering assistant at a major company. I was doing really well at my first job, and soon enough, I was given my first independent project. I couldn't believe how much I'd changed since high school. I wasn't the loser kid anymore. I was somebody. But then, my world flipped upside down when I found out where my first project was gonna be. My old school. My nightmare school. The school wanted to make some structural changes to the building, and they'd hired my company for it. I tried to pass the job to another person, but no one would take it. I was at the edge of a panic attack. The day finally came, and I took a deep breath as I stood still like a statue in front of the main building. It was the very first day of school, and the parking lot was packed. My nightmare was all over my memory again. I won't lie, I felt insecure. I forced myself inside the building, passing through the students like an aisle to hell. But then the weirdest thing happened. A hot, tall, built guy, probably a senior, passed next to me and said, "Hi, beautiful," smiling. I froze. Did he just call me beautiful? I smiled back and he stopped walking and came back towards me. Oh no, breathe, Selena, breathe. Are you new? I haven't seen you around, he said. Yes? It sounded like a question. I coughed. Yes, I said, more convincingly now. He scanned my entire body and winked at me. Nice. See you around, he said. Then a girl passed next to me and complimented my clothes. Was I dreaming? It had to be a dream. I continued to the main office to introduce myself to the headmaster so I could begin my work. But when I was about to enter, a group of beautiful girls, probably the popular ones in high school, stopped me and asked me what classes I had. I don't know, I said, still a bit frightened. I was going to find out now. Let us help you, one said. And they all got inside the office with me. What would I say? I was obviously not on the students list. The secretary said it was normal, that sometimes the files came in late. One of the girls said she was a senior and asked me if I was a senior. I don't know why I said yes. Everything happened so fast, I had no time to explain anything. I had to act surprised as they showed me around, even though I knew every corner of that school. They were laughing, chatting, and introducing me to everyone. I didn't know how it happened, but by lunchtime, everyone was saying hi to me as if we were old friends. When we got inside the cafeteria, I panicked again. I wasn't sure what to eat. But then again, through the past 3 years, I got used to eating healthy food. So I grabbed a fruit and a juice and continued. They started laughing, and I thought, oh no, they're laughing at me. But then one of the girls said she was so jealous of me by only eating one fruit and asked me how I could do that. I told them that my secret was to eat less, more times a day. Then we walked towards the table, talking about diets and such. I hesitated before sitting with them, but they quickly opened a space for me. It was a dream. It really was a dream. For the first time in my life, I was popular. The hot guy that spoke to me earlier, whose name was Ashton, came to our table and sat next to me. God, he was handsome. And he smelled really nice, too. What are you doing, Selena? You're going to jail for this. But, as if my dream wasn't spectacular enough, he said his 18th birthday was next week and asked me personally if I would go to his party. I froze again. I looked at the other girls. They were smiling, chilling. I guess they were obviously invited, and I was the only one that hadn't confirmed yet. Yeah, sure, I said as casually as possible. But then I remembered I had to be back in the city next week. Dang. Well, since I was already lying, what would another small lie do? I would tell my boss I needed more time and stay at my grandma's, who was still living there. I talked to my boss and lied to him. And then I talked to my sister and lied to her too, saying that I was working at our old school and they'd told me they needed a copy of her ID for archive reasons. I don't know how she believed me, but she sent me a copy by mail, and on the very next day, I was at school again. Now, not as Selena, but as Sarah. The popular girls asked me about it, and I said it was a family thing, that they call me Selena as a loving nickname. Man, I was making up lies faster than I could manage. That first week passed like a wind. I was with the popular girls every day, hanging out in school and after. We went shopping together, and now that I had money and an amazing body, I bought myself a really nice dress for the party. I went to the party feeling really good about myself. "Hello, birthday boy," I told Ashton when I saw him. He scanned me again and smiled. "I hope you were my present," he said. I was in heaven. I went to the dance floor, and I honestly don't remember much after that. Only that I was in a dream I hoped would never end. His kisses, they were another universe. It was the best night of my life. The next day at school, I was in the bathroom when I heard some girls coming in. I thought I heard my name, so I stayed inside and listened. "That dress!" one of the girls yelled. "I must ask Selena where she got it from ASAP." I smiled, thinking that they liked my sense of fashion. But then all of them started laughing. Were they being sarcastic? "Oh, Ashton, kiss me, my birthday boy. Mwah," one of them continued as they all laughed. I couldn't believe this. I thought the popular girls liked me. Tears started running down my cheeks. I couldn't believe that everything was fake. I was so involved with this high school life that I'd completely forgotten to call my boss with work progress. I wasn't answering his calls or messages either. So, before I knew it, I saw him standing at the school's hallway, talking to students as soon as I stepped out of the washrooms. I don't think I have to tell you what happened next. I saw my classmates standing next to him. They pointed at me. I could tell they were mad right away. They already knew everything. They found out I was lying. I don't really remember much after that. Everything escalated quickly. In no time, I had no more friends and no more job. My boss fired me instantly and left. My classmates walked away without even letting me explain. I even saw Ashton standing there. He stared at me for a moment longer, then denied in silence and went back inside. I sat on a bench outside and stood there for a long time, like a ghost, as all the students got inside for class. I saw myself alone again. I didn't really care about all the fake friends I had around the school, but Ashton, he was different, and I had genuine feelings for him. He refused to hear me out, though. I tried to call him or contact him in any way, but he shut me down every time. There was nothing else for me to do in that town, so I collected my stuff and went back to the city. I felt like a loser again. I had no job, nothing to do, and I stayed home, eating away my feelings. But after a while, I got an email from my boss inviting me to a meeting. He was hoping we could sort things out. So I went, and I explained everything to him. He was shocked with my story. He even said he was sorry for being so tough with me. I got my job back, but I was not really happy. I was still thinking about Ashton. I thought that I would never see him again, but again, I thought wrong. I was walking outside my house, and I saw him standing there. I couldn't believe it was him. I walked up to him, and he stood in front of me for a long moment in silence. I couldn't find any words in my mind to speak either. So we just stared at each other. And then he broke the silence and said, "I know you lied, and I hate you for it, but I can't help it because I'm in love with you. I can't stop thinking about you, Selena." All the air I was keeping in my lungs went out through my mouth, and all I could do was smile. "I'm in love with you too," I told him. Ashton got closer and kissed me. I was on cloud 9.
Hi, I'm Coral, and last summer I developed a bit of an obsession with a creature that swallowed me whole and tried to take my life. I was going to be spending the summer volunteering at a Komodo dragon reserve in Indonesia, and my parents were seriously freaked out that I'd get hurt. So they made me get every single vaccination the travel clinic offered and packed me this embarrassingly huge first aid kit. All the other volunteers on the program laughed at me when they heard about my vaccinations. Looks like we've got a bit of a hypochondriac on our hands, the group leader joked. Well, better safe than sorry, right? Also, my brother had said there were loads of snakes in Indonesia, and I hated snakes, so I'd looked up some videos on YouTube about how to fight off snakes. I'm not joking, I was prepared for anything. I called it my snake dance, and it went like this. See snake approaching. Freeze. If snake starts to chase me, grab a stick and start running around in a circle, tapping the stick on the ground all around me. If all else fails, climb up a tree and don't let the snake out of my sight. Watch it like a hawk. So, you see, I was ready. On the plane, I sat next to the group leader, and it was a pretty long flight, so I was bored. I offered to show him my snake dance. I even got out of my seat and was about to show him, but suddenly there was some turbulence, and over the loudspeaker, they said, "Will the lady dancing in the aisle please return to her seat at once?" I won't lie, it was pretty embarrassing. When we landed, we got taken to the Komodo Dragon Reserve and shown to our rooms. It was basically a glorified hut. We were staying in a small village inside the reserve, and I was kind of shocked. The toilets were outdoors, and everything was super gross. The ranger showed us around and told us to be careful at night because when it rained, the river would rise and could easily carry us away. Then he told us to look out for snakes, and I was about to interrupt with my dance when the group leader gave me a look which clearly meant, "Shut up," so I kept quiet. Suddenly, something started running towards us, and I screamed. I grabbed a stick, and then I realized it was a Komodo dragon. I couldn't believe we were actually seeing one. It ran right past us, like it was in a race, and then we saw what it was after. It was chasing a snake. The ranger told us to keep our voices down, and maybe we'd see the attack happen. The snake was still oblivious to the dragon, and then suddenly, the dragon leapt onto it and in 2 gulps swallowed it. "Whoa!" one of the guys said. It had happened so fast, I'd barely even seen it. "But they don't eat humans, right? The Komodo dragons, I mean," I asked nervously. Everyone just laughed, and our tour continued. I was so tired from the jet lag, and all I wanted was to go to bed. For dinner, they did a special welcoming ceremony for us with local dancers and local food. We had chicken and rice, and then a local delicacy that was deep-fried and pretty spicy. I liked it, though, so I ate loads of them. The ranger smiled at me as he bit into one and said, "Enjoying the grasshoppers, I see. Want more?" I spat it out so fast. Grasshoppers? I thought it was like a fried vegetable or something. For the rest of the night, I felt sick. Lying in bed, I knew it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but my stomach felt uneasy. So I decided to go to the toilet. It was pitch black, so I grabbed my flashlight. The toilet was only a 2-minute walk from my hut, but I still felt scared. It was so noisy outside. The crickets were chirping so loudly, and it made me even more nervous. The toilet was down by the river, so I walked quickly and tried not to think about all the creatures out and about. But then I heard something nearby. I quickly turned around, shining my flashlight, and then I froze. There was a little girl standing outside the cabin, and she was playing with something. She'd given me such a fright. But what was she doing outside so late at night? I started walking towards her, and she saw me. She brought her finger to her lips and said, "Shh." Maybe she wants to play a game with me, I thought. I was bursting for the toilet, but I needed to make sure she was okay. I walked towards her, and then her eyes went wide in shock and she ran. I almost laughed. I must have scared her. I realized I'd stood on something, and I looked down at my feet. I'd stepped on a snake's tail. This couldn't be happening. Maybe it was asleep. Did snakes even sleep? Well, this one was not asleep because suddenly it started moving. I managed to run just in time before it twisted around my ankle, and then it started to chase me. Everything I'd learned went out the window. I couldn't even find a stick. If I screamed, I'd wake everyone up, and people already thought I was weird. So I just ran towards the river, thinking maybe it would lose me and I could hide behind some of the reeds there. The Komodo dragons slept out by the river, so they'd protect me if the snake came. I felt something wet on my ankle and thought it was the river. But then I looked down, and it was a snake's tongue. It was right next to me. I started kicking, hoping it would get scared and leave me alone. I was running so fast I dropped my flashlight. It landed on the ground, and then I heard it smash. Suddenly, I was in complete darkness. But I could still hear the snake slithering along. I tried to find my hut, but I was so lost. All I could see was the river, and that's where I was headed. I didn't even stop to think that maybe there were crocodiles in there or water snakes. I just leapt in. I stayed under the water until I couldn't hold my breath any longer. I felt something on my leg, and I screamed, completely forgetting that I was underwater. Gasping, I came up for breath and spat out all of the river water I'd almost swallowed. I realized it was just some algae that I'd gotten my leg tangled in. Luckily, the snake was nowhere to be seen. I pulled myself out of the water, crawled onto the riverbank, and lay there shivering. I'd been chased by a snake and almost drowned. I was so exhausted, I could barely move. I had to get back to my hut, though. What if the snake was still out there waiting for me? I must have fallen asleep, because the next moment, I felt something around my waist. For a second, I thought I was still at home, and that it was my pet dog, Biscuit. But then I realized I was outside and I was in Indonesia. The tightness got worse. Something was squeezing me and it was heavy. I tried to get up, but the weight was too much. It was pulling me down. Then its face came right up to my head, and I saw a large, gaping hole. And then the most horrific thing that could happen happened. Everything went really dark, and I thought I'd fallen into the river. I tried to reach up to the surface, but I was stuck. Everything was closing in around me, and it felt like I was drowning. I put my hand out to feel around, and then I started slipping. It felt like I was being squeezed down and pushed through a damp, sticky cave. Suddenly, I saw a bit of light, and then it was gone again. And then I realized where I was. I was inside the snake. It had swallowed me. I started panicking. I could barely breathe, and there was no way out. Surely I'd die in there. It felt like I was inside a really tight sleeping bag, except damp and hot. Maybe this was what it felt like inside the womb, I wondered. And then the reality of the situation came back to me. I was going to die inside this snake. I thought maybe I could crawl back out, but honestly, my body was so squished up inside the snake that I actually heard a crunching sound. I didn't know what it was at first, but then I realized it was my bones. Something inside me had just broke. I screamed out in pain, and it came out like a muffle, like my mouth was taped up. There was nowhere for the sound to go, no echo. Then the snake moved a bit, and I felt like I was being dragged along over some rocks. I gave up. I was too exhausted to even fight anymore. The snake had won, and then there was just stillness. This was not the death I envisioned for myself. Girl eaten by a snake, that was the last thought I remembered having. But then I heard screams and lots of loud voices. I felt like I was underwater. I could hear my name, but it was hazy, so hazy. And then I heard a really loud noise like a machete. And then there was a sliver of light and cool air, and then nothing again. I woke up in the hospital. The ranger was there, and so was that little girl I'd seen. And when they saw my eyes were open, they ran outside and grabbed our leader and some of the other volunteers. Everyone looked so pale and upset. She's alive! They shouted. Oh my gosh, so I had almost died then. Then I remembered the snake and how it had swallowed me. My body was bandaged up. Then I felt a sharp pain. Some of my ribs had been crushed and broken. The little girl had seen it happen and told her dad, the ranger. He grabbed his machete and cut it open. And when he'd seen me lying I had no idea. He kept talking nonstop about how incredible snakes are and that this snake was obviously very smart not to kill me, and said maybe I had a special power in controlling snakes. Then I thought about my snake dance, and I thought, maybe he's right. Maybe I am studying the wrong animal. My parents arrived and cried a lot, then made me fly home immediately with them. But just before I left, the snake guy appeared with a gift for me. He told me to open it only when I got back home. It was the snake skin, the snake that had died trying to swallow me. He'd made it into a bag for me. He also gave me his email and asked if he could write about me in a snake journal, and I said it was okay. And then we started emailing a lot. He called me his snake princess and said he couldn't stop thinking about me and that I would be a great asset to his snake team. Then he asked me if I'd like to come next summer and volunteer at his reserve and work with the snakes. And you know what? I said yes. I'd already been inside a snake's body and survived, so maybe it was time to dig a little deeper and get into a snake's mind. What do you think of my story? Please share your comments below and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories.